Now at 11, breaking news as severe storms blow through our region, leaving extensive damage in many hometowns. Tonight, several families are without homes and thousands have no power. Our complete coverage starts right now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Leanna Scacchetti. Thank you for joining us this evening. Cleanup is underway in Campbell County right now after the powerful storm moved through our region. That is where we find WDBJ7's Ashley Ann tonight. Ashley, what are conditions looking like there right now?
Yeah, Leanna, I'm right here at the Med Express on Timberlake Road, where you can see the building right here behind me. The wall is just completely gone and there's debris all over the ground. And this is the same building that the Starbucks is also located in right here off of Timberlake Road. Now, I spoke to fire officials who tell me that a stretch, about a mile stretch of Timberlake Road all the way from Waterlick to Greenview Drive is where most of the damage was. And we're going to show you some video here right now, though. This is the Floor Show business, and their building was just completely ripped off. The front of the building you see is just completely torn off. Now, owners worked to salvage what they could from the damage, as you see there on the screen. Now, we also spoke to some folks over at Waterlick Tire Garage as well, and you can see vehicles just flipped over on their roofs, and owners there tell me they're just devastated by this damage.
Now, this was a very long track tornado, a long track storm, if you will, that moved pretty much from the Greensboro area. First off, this evening, moved into Danville, Pennsylvania County, and then moved right along the 29 corridor. And you can see that this thing weakened a little bit and then re-strengthened right as it hit over Lynchburg. It's been a humbling experience. As a meteorologist, you know what you'd expect to see when you come out to a storm like this and damage like this. But I tell you, it's always definitely an emotional experience as well, talking to the folks. Now, the last time that Amherst had a tornado in this area, in the county, was back in July 1990. Now, we're still waiting to see what this storm was rated. The one back then was an EF0. Very, very small tornado. But one thing for sure, just looking at the damage, this is the worst tornado that this area has ever seen.
I got my wife and my two girls down there, and then I just heard glass shattering, and I just screamed, "Get out."
The flyover from Air 7 clearly shows the tornado's path, ripping through the tree line, throwing them in all directions, heading straight for Nottoway Drive. Nearly all the homes in the neighborhood had damage, but the ones closest to the tornado's center suffered the worst impacts. Even an RV can be seen blown down on its side between two demolished homes. Even one of the newer homes in the neighborhood was leveled to the foundation, with a family trapped inside. JC4 ran immediately after the storm to help.
This was completely it was in shambles. It was down. There was nothing left on the foundation. And I ended up finding the mother, and she was talking to me. She seemed very shaken, but she was good. And then we found his oldest son, and he had some cuts, and I think his arm looked to be broke at that point. And at that point, my wife went out running down. She had called 911, and we just waited for him to get there.
The left side of this building, the wall has been ripped down, exposing each and every one of these rooms. And over here on the right side, yes, structural damage, some windows blown out, but the brick still standing there on this side of the building. And the debris just all over this parking lot. Much of this parking lot where we are, there's a few different businesses around here that are destroyed. Here, take a quick look at some video. Remember when I was talking about that building where it looked like Lego blocks were just knocked down? That's what's going on over there. The bulldozer earlier was cleaning up some of that wreckage, and that's going to go on through the entire night, much into tomorrow and the next few days. And real quick as well, this car here, lots of these cars in parking lots all across Timberlake Drive, all windows blown out of it. Lots of them have flat tires. Just some of the destruction we're seeing here.
This was the scene in the Fink household Sunday night, a dance party with a lot of giggles. Less than an hour later, everything changed.
I didn't know if we were going to be in heaven that night or we were going to be down here.
The Fink family home is destroyed. 5 of the 7 were home when the tornado came hurtling towards them.
I saw it through the window on that side, and I was yelling, "Gary, get back over here. It's getting worse. Get over here with us."
And then it got almost pitch black, and I got the whole family back in here.
I pulled that door in front of us. Gary he said he couldn't get the babies close enough to him.
You could feel the house rumbling and shaking. The foundation cracked right through here.
I'm holding that door so tight. And that door, it saved my family.
After clinging for life in a basement, they saw light shining overhead. It was clear that their house was gone.
It brings me in tears. Yep.
The days since have been filled with hope for the Finks. These are school pictures of their son, found 6 miles from their home by deputies.
It's those sentimental things that when you find those, you're like, oh, thank goodness.
For Lacey Fink, it was her missing wedding ring.
When I look at the debris, the thought of ever finding my wedding rings was ridiculous. And they called me a few hours later and they had found my wedding rings.
They say they'll rebuild as a family and as a neighborhood.
This is not about the Finks. This is about Elon. This is about our neighborhood. These are the people that my kids go to school with. These are my babysitters.
A community that from the looks of it is destroyed, but whose spirit is stronger than ever.
When you look at this, all of these people should not have come out of this okay. And we're all going to come out on the other side.
The Childress family live off of Deerfield Drive, and I spoke with the father, David Childress. He told me he noticed the weather start to get bad last night, so he decided to drive down the road and pick up 2 of his children who were at youth group at their church, and he says in the 10 minutes that he was gone, his whole life changed. This is what is left of the Childress home. Just before the storm hit, David Childress left to pick up his other 2 children. When he left, he had a home. When he came back, it was gone.
And I was gone maybe 10 minutes. And of course it was pouring down rain. And when I came back to a catastrophe.
What was worse, his wife and other son were still inside the home.
It was probably the worst feeling I've ever had. I knew my wife and my son were in that house. And my house wasn't there. It was in my front yard.
His son was blown into the yard, knocked unconscious. His wife was concussed and his son has surgery today. In other parts of Elon, the cleanup continues. Power lines are still on the ground. Tree debris lays in front yards. Some people's homes are a total loss.
It's a mess. Oh, Lord, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
This teenager realized her grandfather's home was destroyed when she saw it on the news.
Honestly, I was in shock. I didn't really understand, like, how could that really happen to someone so close to me? Like, we hear about these things happening in other places, but we never expect it to hit so close to home.
Neighbors of the Childress family are now helping them pick up things that they can hold on to. David Childress is just glad he can hold on to family.
And thank God they made it out.
They did make it out and they are expected to be okay. His son, he told me, has several fractures in his arm. He's got about 50 stitches and staples in his head and he's got a few cracked ribs.
Throughout the afternoon, Randy Johnson was looking for the items that were thrown from his house, one that's now unrecognizable.
Yeah, this was the master bedroom.
Where he lived for 23 years, leveled. The family pictures gone with it.
The house doesn't mean a lot to me. It's just it's the photos.
It was his mission today to get them back, and others helped him sift and search.
I don't know these people. They're just helping us, and I tell them what I'm looking for, and they're more than willing to come out here and help.
Every once in a while, a find.
That's me with my youngest daughter. She was born 1 pound, 13 ounces. Good find.
Through the afternoon, he found a handful of treasure. Sonograms, births, childhood photos.
This is what counts, man. Yeah. Home movies and photos.
They're small victories in the middle of unimaginable loss. And when he finds those photos, he holds on to them.
They've already gotten away from me once, and I'm not going to let them happen again.
His search for memories takes priority. As for what's next, who knows?
We don't know what to do next. We just we call the insurance, you call the post office, and you pick up.
You can put a dollar value on a home, but you can't put a price on what he's finding today.
The sign for the floor show on Timberlake Road is now laying inside the store.
It's just hard to believe that this much destruction can take place in just an instant like that.
Wayne DeWitt remembers the day he opened the showroom. He now walks through, glass crunching under his feet.
But you can see standing here the kind of displays that we had and how extensive it was.
Every kind of floor you can think of, they sold it. Carpet, hardwood, ceramic tiles.
Because that's one of the fastest growing categories now.
DeWitt is an expert, and he was proud of that showroom.
It hurts a lot.
He started the business with a small loan in 1975.
It really does.
The rugs, tiles, they mean so much more to him.
I try not to dwell on it.
It's hard not to.
I mean, you know, it's a life's work here that I was really, really proud of.
It's frustrating, and it doesn't make sense.
Just total devastation, and yet there's a champagne bottle sitting there.
Some things left unscathed, his life's work demolished. But with any work that takes a lifetime to perfect, you don't just give up on it.
We've survived so far, and we will survive from this.
About an hour and a half ago, officials told us that the damage estimates rose from 102 homes this morning to 146 that are now damaged, with an additional 22 that are a complete loss or severely damaged. But I have to say, for residents along here on Nottoway Drive, the cleanup process and salvaging of memories is just beginning. This is what's left of Renee Selleck's home.
Yeah, you just step right here.
Piles of rubble now greet her as she walks through her front door. What sat in the path of an EF2 tornado left her home unrecognizable.
I look down the hallway and this is like, it's not real.
Selleck and her family, who were home when disaster struck, are now trying to salvage what they can from the wreckage.
That was the kitchen.
A kitchen, Selleck says, where a lot of family memories were cooked up, are now left scattered.
It's like pieces. You want to find little pieces that you can hold on to.
But Selleck is able to hold on to one piece, this cross. It was given to her by a friend after her mother passed away from cancer.
She gave it to me in a card and I hung it on that wall so it would be there and we could see it every day.
Every day, Selleck says she will hold on to that cross that once hung on her wall. And at the end of the day, she says she's thankful that no one in her family was hurt.
A house is things, yes, and it's sad because your family gets displaced, but you can bounce back from it. You can prevail.
Inside Lynchburg General, a different type of tornado recovery is underway.
Yeah, I'm just covered in bruises. I'm like a banana.
Bryson Childress was home with his mother when their lives changed in seconds.
When it started to rain really hard, got up to look out, and then all of a sudden, Mom was like, we need to go downstairs now.
But that warning came too late.
I was in the exact center of the house, and then all of a sudden, their back doors fly open.
I just remember seeing, it was like the walls were lifting, and I'm like, I felt like Wizard of Oz. That's what Dorothy the Wizard of Oz.
And then I remember being tossed and tumbled, and that was it.
Moments later, Bryson's dad arrived after picking up their other kids from youth group. He feared the worst. Instead, he found them dazed in the driveway, hurt, but otherwise okay.
That's an image that will live in my mind, unfortunately, I think forever.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a miracle of God.
As for Bryson, he's recovering in the hospital, slowly gaining motion in his right hand. Sharon suffered a mild concussion and sprained shoulder. Nothing compared to what could have been.
But I mean, just how does that happen? All I can say is God was here to protect her.
Driving through Elon, you hear the various stages of recovery. Repairs where possible, silence as tough decisions are being made, and the sound of a clean slate.
They dig this big hole?
It's really hard to feel like this was my home here.
The Fink family home was destroyed. Now, they're building a new one.
It's gonna be blue and more stable.
They visit the property often and are still finding remnants of their old life.
Where do you think it all came from?
Maybe the car window, maybe the windows, maybe the door was glass.
The Childresses walk through a similar red clay-covered hole.
I had nightmares. Hearing Landon scream, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Bryson Childress has physical reminders. Him and his mom were thrown in the tornado.
I've just been focusing on just getting better, getting back to 100%.
The road to recovery is emotional and has a lot of logistics. Next door, the Coopers understand.
I haven't allowed myself really to sit down and cry or let it out, you know. I've kind of just been, I don't know, in go zone.
Her husband has not been back to work. Their son can't sleep alone.
It's hard to explain.
Hard to explain.
So you don't like being alone anymore, do you? Nope.
No amount of time will allow these families to forget.
It still takes my breath away to come out here you know, each change, like when another house has been dug up, it's still a lot to think about and a lot to handle.
But with time does come healing.
What was our home was our family. And, you know, we still have that.
Taking stock in what survived and holding it close.
You know that we're going to be okay, right?
Yeah.
You know we're going to get a new house.
Mm-hmm.
And who's going to take care of us?
Mommy and Daddy.
And who takes care of all of our family?
God.
Because it's not the last month that defines these families, but the months ahead. In Elin, Siobhan McGurl, WDBJ7. Off Timberlake Road, a sense of normalcy returns.
I just wanted to let you know we're open.
3 months later, the floor show is back in business.
It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, the night of the tornado. But at times it feels like it's been a year. Especially today, being back open is really, it's almost surreal in a sense.
The days since April 15th have been hard, cleaning up, dealing with contractors, and finding a temporary spot.
This is the hardest physically I've ever worked.
The old building is gone, just the frame remains. They will rebuild on these same metal beams and a lot of memories. Wayne DeWitt started the business with a small loan in 1975. He walked us through the week after, flipping through rugs covered in debris.
I mean, you know, it's a life's work here that I was really, really proud of.
Mom and Dad started this business when I was 3.
As his son, and now owner, flips through a new display of rugs in a new showroom, that family history is close to his heart.
But there's always the look forward to a new start and a new beginning.
You see the life coming back into the subdivision, and that's so exciting.
Once heavily damaged by a tornado, the landscape in Elin is being rebuilt. Debbie Habel with the Amherst Habitat for Humanity says about 5 families whose homes were destroyed have moved into their new homes.
There are 4 that have not started their homes, and then there are 5 that are almost ready within the next week or so, ready to move back in.
That includes the Massey family.
Been a lot of hot days put in rebuilding this, and it'll be nice to be home.
John Massey is still familiarizing himself with his new home. It's that unique.
So my 19-year-old daughter designed it, and I'm really proud of her.
And Massey, he built it. He says it's about 400 square feet larger than the last one. Now, there's still work to do before the Masseys can move into their new home. A few loose ends to tie up on the outside, and appliances like the kitchen stove are on the way.
It should be here this Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. I won't get to cook my turkey. Okay, that's all right. I guess they sell turkey sandwiches.
But Massey says he should be able to move his family in before Christmas, something he's most excited about.
Then you'll see me smile. That'll tickle me to death.
A new home, a labor of love.
Because I love my girls.
Okay, ladies first.
It's a house tour Zach Cooper has been waiting 8 months to give.
Too long.
The last time his neighbors were running up his steps, things were different.
Watch out for the glass. That side was gone, and Zach's room was ruined.
An EF3 tornado leveled Millie and Eliza Fink's house on Nottoway Drive before tearing through Zach's just 1 block away.
And I saw everything was outside. And then when I came out, someone picked me up. That's really all I remember.
It's been a tough process for the kids. They've had a hard time sleeping, the rain still scares them, and for the last 8 months, they've lived out of bags.
We had to go away in a rental house. We had to leave our home.
But today, in the Cooper house,
Hey, Eliza.
It's all smiles.
Because we're back in our house.
The Finks moved back in October, Zach 5 days ago.
1 day before Christmas Eve.
As the 3 explored the new house,
That's a guest bedroom, more candles.
they were taken back to the day of the tornado and what got them through. A common theme, the community that pulled together to support them.
Our house, every person in our neighborhood was around our house.
When the Coopers moved in, they were surprised with a fully decorated Christmas tree from 2 friends.
Exciting.
The last time we interviewed the kids, Zach said he knew they would all live happily ever after, a phrase that makes them all giggle now.
I did say it. Right at the end.
but one that Zach says still holds an important meaning.
We'll live happily, and we'll never have to go through the same things again.
2 new homes, 3 good friends, happily ever after. Siobhan McGurl, WDBJ7.
Many of our hometowns are experiencing dangerous floods right now.
We're actually on Riverside Drive, which actually looks a lot like a river. You can see right here behind me, several swift water rescues have been taking place. Several more are still happening. As soon as those water boats are coming back, they're going right back out. Now, I do want to show viewers at home some video of a swift water rescue just moments ago. You can see a young boy just pulled off of one of the boats and brought into safety along with other people from that boat. There have been several people over the last hour that they've had to go out there and rescue. It went from 7 folks that they were rescuing to 14 to 30 just within moments. So it's been a pretty hectic scene out here for fire crews. They tell me that they have been tied up all afternoon.
Deadly floodwaters in Danville left businesses destroyed, buildings unrecognizable, and some people,
I feel very blessed.
Thankful.
I really do. And you know, I lost a car, but not a life.
Just one day prior, this was the scene outside Kim Willis's window on Riverside Drive.
There were so many cars in front of me and behind me, there was no way we could move anywhere.
Upwards of 40 people were stuck. It was the first of more than 100 calls the Danville Life-Saving Crew and Danville Fire Department responded to Thursday.
Everything comes so fast, it was really overwhelming.
Tommy Barber said these are the moments his team trains for, but the amount of cars and the speed at which they got stuck, he has never seen anything like it.
It was very scary. I wasn't really scared for myself, but more so for my granddaughter, my 5-year-old granddaughter, and getting her out of the car.
Within a matter of minutes, Willis's concerns were eased. Her granddaughter in the arms of a firefighter, safe.
I remember her telling one of the firemen that he was a superhero.
I don't consider myself a hero. I just consider myself doing my job.
A sense of duty felt throughout the River District. With each rescue, each power line restored and road cleared, the city moves on.
WDBJ7 has been on the ground bringing you the latest as Florence moves through the Carolinas.
Good morning. You can hear it, you can see it. Hurricane Florence has arrived here in Wilmington and Wrightsville Beach. We are right near the eye wall, and I can feel it. This is by far the hardest the wind has been blowing, the hardest the rain has been falling. And just to kind of put it in perspective, shingles off the roof just completely being blown off. The conditions that we saw this morning, yes, they were rough, but they are nothing compared to this. Rob, take a look. This destruction speaks for itself.
Right now, evacuations are underway in Lynchburg due to the threat of College Lake Dam failing.
That dam could fail, part of the road could fail, and that water from College Lake could flow down into Blackwater Creek. I'm going to widen out and show you guys where that flows. So there's the College Lake. There is all the watershed that it flows down into. If that happens, in about 7 minutes, we could have basically in that amount of time, about a 17-foot wall of water could go down that watershed basin, which includes Blackwater Creek.
It's all about monitoring the situation. If you can see over my shoulder, there are people out here. It's Public Works, Department of Water Resources, and Lynchburg Police are all on scene. I've been out here for the past hour and a half, and they've been here as well, standing right along the College Lake Dam, monitoring the water that's coming from the dam, washing over the road.
There's about 225 million gallons of water within College Lake, and the watershed itself is about 22 miles that it spreads into. So definitely something that is causing concern there. It's not every day that we have a potential dam break in our area because of that heavy rain.
This is a mother just minutes away from being reunited with her son after 18 hours of not knowing where he was.
I just want to hug my baby so bad. So bad.
18 hours earlier, 9-year-old Andrew was playing outside of his house. His dad turned his back. Andrew wandered off. Within an hour, a search and rescue mission was underway. Andrew's photo was hanging on a command center door.
She calls him Suge.
He'll finish nursery rhymes like Hickory Dickory Dock.
Andrew won't answer to common search phrases. Instead, volunteers were told to try and sing the ABCs.
And then he usually replies HIJKMNOP, which is kind of cute.
He has autism with communication barriers. He's also known to strip down to his underwear. Investigators found Andrew's shoes and clothes in the thick woods behind his house. People lined the woods, waiting.
In case a young man walks out here, we'll be here maybe to hopefully find him.
As Virginia State Police flew overhead at the end of hour 17, word reached Andrew's home on County Road that he was found.
He is totally safe and fine.
This brought Andrew's mom to the gate, waiting as first responders cut him out of briars near a creek and brought him to her.
Here they come, here they come.
Oh, God. How are you?
This is a parent's worst nightmare that actually had a good ending. And I'm so lucky and so grateful and so thankful to everybody.
When former President Jimmy Carter spoke at Liberty University this weekend, he encouraged Christians from different political backgrounds to unite behind their common faith.
WDBJ7's Tim Saunders had a chance to speak with Carter about his commencement speech and how he came to speak at Liberty. It's in an interview you'll only see on WDBJ7.
You mentioned that you were surprised to receive the invitation and you were surprised that you accepted it.
Yes.
What reservations did you have initially, if any?
Well, there's just been an estrangement that's been very painful to me between more conservative and more moderate Baptist.
In 1980, a group of evangelical Christians known as the Moral Majority, led by Liberty University's founder, Jerry Falwell, was widely credited with sweeping Carter out of office. The president said he never met Falwell or anyone else in his family until 2017. Just before President Trump's inauguration, Carter had a chance to meet Liberty President Jerry Falwell Jr. at a prayer breakfast.
President Jerry now was very gracious to come over and speak to me, and he told me he admired me very much and so forth, so I was then very gratified, of course.
Months later, Carter received an invitation to speak at Liberty's commencement.
How did the invitation come about?
I was contacted by the former governor of Georgia, who's now the Secretary of Agriculture, and he asked if I would be receptive to an invitation, and I said, yes, I would. And then later, I got a direct invitation from President Falwell.
So you spoke with Jerry Falwell Jr.
And got a letter, nice letter also.
President Carter arrived in Lynchburg Friday afternoon. Falwell gave him a personal tour of campus.
And I saw, for the first time, how deeply committed Christianity is here, how it permeates everything that they say or do.
In his commencement speech Saturday, President Carter talked about the need for Christians to unite behind their common faith, a concept that's sometimes complicated by politics.
Evangelical Christians, at least for the last 40 years or so, have tended to vote Republican.
I'm an evangelical Christian as well, and I vote Democratic.
Why do you think, though, that in large numbers evangelicals tend to support the Republican Party over Democrats?
Well, it's primarily the Southern Baptist Convention has gone heavily Republican, and I don't criticize them as proven by my presence here. I still feel that we need to get back together, to serve Christ. Conservative and moderate and liberal Christians and Americans can find so much in common.
Now on WDBJ7, it's a diagnosis no one wants to hear.
It's a day that we'll never, ever forget.
And it can be devastating. Families all across our hometowns know firsthand.
But kids know when something's wrong. Kids are very smart.
Tonight, messages of hope from families who've been there.
You always have in the back of your mind.
From diagnosis to treatment, and the attitude in between.
How do you feel? Awesome.
Plus, new research happening right here at home.
We're trying to get down to the very fundamental basis of what's going wrong.
Personal stories and expert advice for loved ones.
And it's good to feel healthy again.
A special WDBJ7 presentation. Your Family Matters. Crushing Cancer.
Good evening and welcome to this special edition of WDBJ7. I'm Jean Jadhunt.
And I'm Kimberly McBroom, and we're joining you from a Carilion Clinic Training Center.
Whenever cancer strikes, it's difficult, but when the patient is only 5 years old, it's especially tough.
Tonight, we meet a Radford boy and hear about his journey. Sutton Smith is a boy of few words.
Tell me about that.
But like most 10-year-olds, he loves video games, Fortnite, and his favorite subject is social studies.
Jamestown and the Civil War and the Revolutionary War.
He also loves riding his bike. When you see him, it's hard to believe this child was sick, very sick. 5 years ago, he could barely make the short walk to school.
When I went to pick him up, I said, "How was school? You know, what'd you do? Did you play on the playground?" And he said, "No, I was too tired. I just sat and watched everybody."
A trip to the doctor and many blood tests later, and then the phone call no parent ever wants to get.
So we knew something was really bad.
5-year-old Sutton was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, or ALL, one of the most common types of childhood cancer.
I mean, you know, cancer, you're cancer.
But the couple made a decision.
Sitting around and feeling sorry for yourself and boo-hooing about the situation is not helping anything. So let's take it head on, you know. Don't let cancer define you. And that's the attitude we took.
Within 24 hours, they had a Facebook page, Super Sutton's Great Adventure. The treatments also started quickly.
He had had a chest x-ray, he had had a bone marrow aspirate, he had had a lumbar puncture, 2 doses of chemotherapy, and had been admitted into the hospital.
The first 8 months were especially tough.
It's at least once a week injections. Sometimes it was every day, and I did the injections into his thigh.
Sutton's treatment is what the Smiths call a journey.
It wasn't just when he looked sick and didn't have any hair and was puffy from the steroids. His treatment went on for just over 3 years, and he took pills or injections every day of that.
While Anthony and Mary remember it all, perhaps the best thing for Sutton, he doesn't. A book filled with screenshots of the many Facebook posts chronicles it all.
This says next chemo treatment in the morning. Do you remember having chemo treatments?
Kinda.
Did it not make you feel good? Or you don't really remember a lot of it, do you? That's a good thing, right?
Now, years later, those days are just a faint memory for this 10-year-old who's riding into a bright future.
Just this past weekend, we hiked Tinker Cliffs, which is 7 miles round trip.
He's a normal kid again.
An amazing journey for the Smith family. Sutton is no longer on treatment, and doctors say his prognosis is great. He is still, of course, going to the doctor for checkups. Talking about cancer is tough, so how do you talk to kids about it? Dr. Violet Borovich at Carilion Children says it's important to involve kids as much as possible in their diagnosis and treatment. She says kids are smart and they know when something's wrong.
And I've told families it's actually more important to talk to your kids about what's going on because they actually feel more fear when they're not involved, when things are happening to them without them being involved in what's going on.
Several books geared toward kids can help. Books on chemotherapy and going to school with cancer. They feature brightly colored drawings and words children can understand.
How do you begin again when your world looks like this?
It's heartbreaking.
A WDBJ7 special, What This Epic Storm Left Behind.
I've lived here all my life and never have experienced anything like it.
On the ground in Florida.
Take a look at what used to be City Hall.
On the ground in Virginia.
The next thing we know, we were standing in water to our knees.
From 2 states, your hometown station brings you stories of shattered lives and of the spirit of resilience. What it takes to come back.
It's a beautiful place, and it will be again.
Rise up. Recovery after Michael.
Thank you for joining us for this special edition of WDBJ7. I'm Leanna Scacchetti.
And I'm Chief Meteorologist Brent Watts.
Hurricane Michael's path of destruction may have started in the Gulf, but it reached well into our region. Take a look. The high winds took down trees all over Panama City, Florida. That left thousands of people without power, and neighborhoods just 20 minutes away in Mexico Beach were left unrecognizable. Back here at home, we saw dozens of swift water rescues like this one in Danville, and the roads across Roanoke were left underwater as the remnants of the storm moved out. Throughout this half hour, we'll take an in-depth look at these stories and the lives that were affected. First, Brent, you're going to give us some perspective on the storm and why it was so catastrophic.
Yes, Leanna, Michael was the 13th named storm, the 7th hurricane, and the 2nd major hurricane of the 2018 Atlantic hurricane season. Let me show you. This is the hurricane from the International Space Station. You can see just the massive size of this thing. It was taken during its strongest point before it made landfall. But it didn't always start out that strong. Believe it or not, it started out as a very small wave near the Caribbean Sea, near the Yucatan Peninsula. It was a very slow-moving system that took about a week before it finally became a tropical depression on October 7th, but the next day it strengthened and intensified into a hurricane near the western tip of Cuba. Now, as it moved northward, it went into extremely warm ocean waters in the Gulf of Mexico, and that's where it strengthened rapidly, reaching major hurricane status on October 9th, peaking at a Category 4 hurricane. That's when it approached the Florida Panhandle with winds at 155 miles per hour, making landfall near Mexico Beach. That compared to Florence, which was a Category 1 hurricane at landfall, a totally different story. Now, this is the first hurricane in that area to make landfall as a Category 4, a huge event. And we all know what happens after that. It began moving northward into Virginia the day after landfall, producing devastating flash flooding all across our area and setting record rainfall and river levels along the Dan River.
We saw some unforgettable images as that powerful storm hit Danville. A WDBJ7 crew was there as responders conducted rescue after rescue when floodwaters trapped families. Kim Willis and her granddaughter were two of more than 30 people who were stuck.
It was very scary. I wasn't really scared for myself, but more so for my granddaughter, my 5-year-old granddaughter, and getting her out of the car.
Everything comes so fast, it was really overwhelming. I don't consider myself a hero. I just consider myself doing my job.
They rescued more than 100 people that day. That water also caused a big mess in downtown Danville. It actually pushed these old train tracks out of the ground, blocking Crackhead Street. At the time, a nearby business owner told us they had never seen anything like it.
We were just astonished when, because it was floating and with the flow of the water, it broke through a fence and, is now across the street.
Beyond the tracks, that damage spread to Supply Resources. It was built in 1904 and sits right next to the trestle. All Barker could do was watch as custom furniture floated in 4 feet of water across newly renovated floors. About an hour and a half up the road, people were forced to wade through floodwaters at the Tanglewood Mall. Many of you told us it reminded you of the flood of 1985. The water covered cars there, stranding some people, and some employees were sent home early. Meanwhile, another scene was unfolding in Salem. At the Moose Lodge, the water from Mason Creek rose almost to the door there, and the Salem Village Trailer Park looked more like a boat landing than the neighborhood. One man fought the high water to clear debris from his camper, and one man risked getting his truck stuck just to get home. As these people struggled, we saw plenty of others step in to help their neighbors. Crews in Galax spent days clearing landslides and downed trees. The unrelenting rain sent mud sliding down on East Stewart Drive, closing that road for hours. There was another landslide at Stockyard Road, causing power lines to fall. The New River and Chestnut Creek overflowed their bounds too. But Hurricane Michael's wrath was most widespread in the Florida Panhandle. We spent a week on the ground there with the people whose lives are forever changed. Many of them told us riding out the storm was the scariest moment of their lives.
In all parts of the Panama City community, destruction is evident.
We just got in the floor of the kitchen and just started praying, Lord, just please, just let us make it through this storm without getting hurt.
Lee Boulding said she rode out the storm in her mobile home in Parker.
That tree fell, so we had to run to this end of the trailer. Then a tree fell on that end of the trailer. So we got some damage. I mean, we can stay here, but I mean, this is very devastating.
While damaged, her home fared better than others.
I've lived here all my life and never have experienced anything like it.
A few blocks over, Jenny Leigh Martinez is holding her breath. A massive tree limb is perched atop her roof. The Cuban native says she's lived through hurricanes before, but never anything like this.
Bueno, los sentimientos.
Well, my feelings, she said, terrible. Terrible. What can I tell you? Everything is destroyed. Across the street, volunteers like Michael Langston with Fuel Relief Fund are filling up tanks with free gas. The nonprofit is helping refuel this community in more ways than one.
A lot of hugs, a lot of tears. In my opinion, if you give a home a power, you bring the family together inside the home. But if you bring fuel, you bring the whole community together.
It will be a long time before this community is fully functional, but most are set on doing it together.
Just try to clean up and do the best we can and try to do some repairs and, help each other. Go around helping each other.
Emergency crews work around the clock to keep residents safe after a storm tears through the region. Some lost everything, and others are just thankful it wasn't worse.
I'm still fortunate that we didn't get any more damage than this.
Tonight, your hometown station takes you through the path of destruction. This special edition of WDBJ7 at 5 starts right now.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Robin Reed.
And I'm Sarah Maki, in tonight for Jean Jadhunt. We are bringing you continuing coverage of the storm damage in our region today.
And we can do it with the help of Air 7, which captured video from Amherst County first thing this morning. And as you can see, wow, many homes were in the path of this destructive storm, just one of the areas hit by the tornadoes.
Chief Meteorologist Brent Watts has been in the Elin area of Amherst County throughout the day, and he has a look at the damage from the ground and above using Air 7.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, Robin. Yes, it has been definitely a day that's filled with a lot of emotion. I tell you, I have not seen this kind of damage since the Appomattox County tornado several years back, and the damage is definitely one of those that shows of a strong tornado and one that moved through extremely fast. The National Weather Service is here in the Elin area. They're going to be, they know it's a tornado. It's just how strong was this? Was it EF2, EF3, EF4? And that will play a big part in just how historic this event was. Looking back, the last time Amherst County had a tornado, July 1990, and before that, May 1976. Both of those were very small tornadoes, so this one a much, much bigger storm as it came through. It's easy to see the damage from the ground, but even a bigger perspective from above using Air 7. The flyover from Air 7 clearly shows the tornado's path, ripping through the tree line, throwing them in all directions, heading straight for Nottoway Drive. Nearly all the homes in the neighborhood had damage, but the ones closest to the tornado's center suffered the worst impacts. Even an RV can be seen blown down on its side between two demolished homes. The devastation continued across the street in the Hunt Ridge neighborhood, where Spruce Craig was working on his patio at the time.
Yes, sir, it was on the carport, and all I saw was the heavy rain. It was dark, and I didn't see a funnel cloud. Just absolutely nothing. It's probably, I'd say in 30 seconds or less, it was over with.
Now, we talked to Spru. He said this thing was so fast as it came through. No funnel cloud. That's why we always tell you guys never wait until you see a tornado, because a lot of times around here, it's not going to be that textbook tornado that you see in photos like they have out west. This is going to be one that's a lot of times shrouded by rain, and you'll never even see the tornado within that, but quite clearly it was in there today. So we'll hear more from the National Weather Service. We're also hearing from a lot of residents that were impacted by this, and Leanna Scachetti has been talking to folks today. Leanna, what kind of stories have you heard? I'm sure a lot of emotion coming out of this type of damage.
Absolutely. Just driving down Route 130 here in Amherst, you can see people cleaning up debris all over the side of the road. Homes that have been leveled just down the street, homes that were barely even touched. We spoke with one man who was getting ready to put on a sweatshirt, put on some shoes in case the storm hit his house, and that is just when the tornado hit his home. He said he was trapped by the debris and couldn't get out until he was rescued by a neighbor. Route 130 in the Elon area is littered with debris. Most of what's in David Neighbor's yard used to be his home.
It's a mess. Oh, Lord, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Neighbor says he was home when the storm hit.
Let me get off the phone, get my sweatshirt on, my shoes on, so I could get out of here. About that time, the whole side of the house caved in. Windows, doors, and everything just came in, glass flying everywhere, so I just dropped down behind the sofa.
The roof and doors collapsed on top of him, trapping him inside.
Yeah, I ran up these steps to get to him,
His girlfriend's son lives next door and came over as soon as he could.
We busted this window out to get to him, and he was trapped back behind in front of the door.
They're thankful to be alive and thankful for the community's support.
Yeah, a lot of people helping. That's great. That's great.
Fortunately, Mr. Neighbors only left with a few cuts and scratches. We did speak with one man whose son was home at the time that the storm hit, Brett. He said his son was actually blown with the debris of his home into the front yard, knocked unconscious. He's getting surgery today for a couple cracked ribs, fractures in his arms, and a couple stitches. But it seems like for the most part, everybody here is doing okay. There's just a lot of cleanup involved.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, when you look at homes like that and the structure, just gone,
right,
completely, all the debris everywhere else, it's a wonder that there were not more injuries with that. So I know that we've talked with Gary, who's with the emergency management here in Amherst County. He said that they've been looking throughout the region today. They've had canine units that are out searching, making sure they didn't miss anybody because there's just so much devastation here, and they did not find any other injuries. And I tell you, with a storm that moved through that fast and that powerful, it's a wonder that didn't. So a lot of folks did heed the warnings and got to shelter very quickly. We're going to hear more from some of the folks that rescued some family members that were trapped in one of the homes. That's coming up at 6 o'clock. Plus, we'll have another aerial view from Air 7 of the damage here in Amherst County.
All right, Brent, we look forward to that continued reporting. Some pretty good news stories considering the amount of damage coming out of Amherst County. Thank you very much. Well, the Campbell County area also saw a lot of damage, and that's where we find WDBJ7's anchor Logan Sherrill tonight. Logan has been kind of detailing what he's seen around him, and Logan, it's impressive just to look at the pictures.
And Robin, it really is. It's incredible to just see what's right over my shoulder. And this is some of the destruction that we have seen right here along Timberlake Road. This is the Carpet One floor and home. The entire front of this business is gone. And we're going to give you a look at what else happened along this road from Air 7. Air 7 was above Timberlake Road this morning, where you can see some of the destruction left behind by this powerful storm. Like here over this parking lot where a Burger King, building supply store, and medical facility took a direct hit. From the ground, tires on cars are flat and windows blown out. The medical facility even had an entire wall ripped down. Just behind the building, a trailer flipped on its side and other vehicles took heavy damage from this light pole falling on them. A few hundred yards down Timberlake Road, the front of this carpet and flooring business is gone. The majority of the debris thrown through the parking lot, even the awning more than 30 feet up a tree over 100 yards away. There was an employee that was in the business when the storm hit. Thankfully, he was uninjured. And what you're seeing now is really what you'll see all across the entire path of destruction of this storm is people in the cleanup process. That's really is what is next as we bring in WDBJ7's Ashley. And Ashley, you saw a lot of these people out here. You've talked with a lot of these people. Yeah. These families who have lost nearly everything, what are they saying?
Absolutely. Logan, I spoke with several homeowners and residents today in the area, and many of them are comparing this damage or the powerfulness of this storm to the derecho of 2012, as many of us remember. Now, one woman I did speak with, one resident who has lived in the area for about 4 years, says she was absolutely shocked at how powerful this storm system really was.
And then we came up and saw all of the destruction. Everybody was out in the streets.
Destruction is what this strong storm left in its wake after tearing through Campbell County Sunday night. Jessica Eubank says she and her family decided to take cover after a large tree fell in their backyard.
And right as we were going down the steps, it really does sound like a freight train. I know people say that all the time, but I've heard that sound once before, and I heard it again, and it's just something you don't forget, and I knew exactly what was happening.
But the Eubank family wouldn't see the real damage until the next day.
We actually had to relocate to a friend's house last night, and our children stayed with our family. So coming back this morning was quite a bit of a shock compared to last night. We couldn't really...
Now, obviously, Eubanks' home wasn't the only one that was damaged by this powerful storm. Logan, as you probably saw as you were driving in, many homes on her street and then also on Timberlake Road saw severe damage today.
Ashley, thank you so much for your work you've done out here. You talked to the man that was in this business.
Yes.
That was thankfully uninjured, very shaken up.
Yes. He did not want to go on camera, but he's thankful that how things turned out.
Yeah,
sure.
and it really is. Thank you, Ashley, again. Like just the damage that this storm has caused in such a tight, precise area, just a couple of 100 yards on either side of the path of destruction of this storm, buildings completely left unharmed. And Sarah, really one of the great things is in this path of destruction, a lot of times you see the best in people. As we were standing here right before we went live, 2 carfuls of folks that had food for people that were without power. They said, where do we go to drop food off? And that just really shows how great people can be in the face of destruction like this.
Yeah, we did hear in Amherst that they are also having a lot of people bringing donations and food and things like that. They want to keep it as controlled as possible so they can make sure that that is an efficient process. We're going to be checking in with you guys later on. Thanks so much, Logan. Well, thousands of Danville utility customers are still in the dark tonight after last night's storm. That storm brought strong winds, knocking down huge trees and power lines. WDBJ7's Hannah Story has more.
Crews have been working hard all day here on Westover Drive to restore power as quickly as possible. The crews are completely replacing several broken poles along Westover Drive. Luckily, no one was in this home when the storm uprooted the tree and it destroyed this house on Oak Haven Road. Power lines are still all over the ground in the area. Danville Utilities Director Jason Gray says the storm that passed through the Westover Drive area is near a substation. He reminds residents to give the crews room to work.
A lot of trees that are laying on lines that we need to get to. We don't want homeowners or people trying to go out with chainsaws and try to cut them off themselves. That could be very dangerous.
Gray says the crews are working as quickly as they can. Utilities Director Jason Gray says he doesn't have an estimate right now for when power will be restored. In Danville, Hannah Story, WDBJ7.
And you are watching WDBJ7 at 5. Coming up, people in Craig County dealt with their share of storm damage as well. Our senior reporter Joe DeShiel continues our team coverage in just a moment.
Welcome back. The National Weather Service has confirmed that a tornado with winds topping 100 miles per hour touched down in Craig County.
And the National Weather Service sent out their team to examine the damage there. They spoke with the residents of the neighborhood first thing this morning. And WDBJ7's Joe DeShiel is live tonight near Newcastle. So, Joe, this is an amazing story that this would happen up in Craig County.
Well, that's right, Robin. We have seen substantial damage here. Lots of trees on the ground, siding, shingles torn from buildings, and in one case, a pickup truck tossed on top of another car. Jeff Van Dyke was on his way home when the storm came through. He noticed some damage as he arrived on Hawkins Lane, but it wasn't until he drove up his driveway that he saw the worst of it.
Had a storage building here. It's gone. Then, of course, the vehicles were flipped upside down. Sure. And the detached garage suffered buckling on both sidewalls. No, today is pickup day, so it's just trying to clean up a little bit and making sure everything is secure and mitigate any further damage.
He'll move quickly to repair the roof, but Van Dyke says it will be a slow process to clean up the rest and move on. The meteorologist with the National Weather Service told me that he believed the winds were in excess of 90 miles per hour. So, Robin, this was, in fact, a dangerous storm, and residents of this neighborhood are telling me they feel fortunate that no one was injured.
And as the gentleman said, it was pickup day, and just then we were looking at a pickup truck upside down sitting on top of another car. What an amazing story up there, and we're glad that nobody was seriously hurt. Joe DeShiel, thank you for our update now in Craig County.
The damage was extensive, hitting so many parts of our viewing area. The whole time you, our viewers, were right there sending home videos and photos to us. So here's a look at some of the experiences you shared directly from you.
It's going to get real bad real soon.
One car was running a dashboard camera while driving through Danville when they got this.
Trees are going down, Dad.
Tree branches breaking off. They pull over to avoid downed power lines. But soon they come across this tree in the middle of the road, blocking their way.
Holy cow. Look.
Wow. David Baltazar caught video of these strong winds and rain moving through Danville near the airport. And you can see that rain coming in waves in this home video from the same area. Glenn sent us this photo of hail collected in Fancy Gap. And River City TV got this aerial video showing just some of the damage on Monday. We are bringing you continuing coverage at 6 of the storm damage in our region. Just stick with WDBJ7 on air on our website and on our Facebook page.
And to make this kind of severe weather, we have to have a huge temperature change. And guess what? Christian Johansson is talking about that next.
Yeah, we're talking about wind chills making an impact as you head out the door tomorrow morning. Teens and 20s across the area. Will it stick around? We'll talk about that coming up in your forecast.
Now, from the BerglandCars.com Weather Center, here's your hometown forecast.
The cold air behind this front continues to push into the area. Look at this, 30 in Bluefield, 36 in Lewisburg. We're now 49 in Roanoke. Don't worry, folks that are still in the 50s. That cold air continues to move in, and we'll see those temperatures drop as we head into the overnight hours. A little bit of clearing in some regions, but I think we'll see partly cloudy conditions across the area. Mostly cloudy up into the mountains. We might even see some flurries as well in some portions of the New River Valley up into the western slope of the Appalachian Mountains as we continue to see these strong northwest winds in this area of upper level area of low pressure just kind of spinning just up to our north. So there's still a potential to see a few flurries, maybe some light accumulation, especially in the mountains up into the highlands. Partly cloudy for tonight. Mountain flurries here will taper off as we head into the early morning hours, but we're left with some very cold air rolling into the area for tomorrow morning. And with that, we are talking about wind chills being a factor. For the next couple of hours here until 8 p.m., we do have a wind advisory from Roanoke down through Grayson County along the Blue Ridge here, where we have the potential, especially at higher elevation, to see those wind speeds maybe maxing out around 40 to 50 miles per hour here. We will see some cool conditions for tomorrow, a little more sunshine in the forecast, a little warmer on Wednesday. The winds look to stick around through much of the week. We'll see another weak front come through Thursday and Friday, cooling things down. But I tell you what, much calmer conditions here for the next 5 to 7 days.
Thanks, Christian. The open casting call for Big Brother wrapped up at Hart Kia in Salem. Even after it got underway this afternoon, more than 50 house guest hopefuls showed up to show off their stuff. They had 2 minutes in front of our WDBJ7 cameras, try and sell themselves, and we might see just some of those faces on this summer's season of Big Brother.
We'll see. You're watching WDBJ7 at 5, and coming up, never forget. Remembering the victims of the Virginia Tech shootings 11 years later. We're live from the campus next.
The Virginia Tech community is remembering the 32 victims who were killed in the mass tragedy 11 years ago today. One of the biggest moments of the weekend happened earlier today. WDBJ7's Eamon O'Mara is live at the April 16th memorial. So Eamon, the wreath laying that took place this morning, I'm sure it was very emotional.
Yes, it was, Sarah. Just before 9:43, University President Tim Sands, his wife, Dr. Laura Sands, and Provost Cyril Clark came out to present the wreaths on the memorial and hold a moment of silence at each victim's individual memorial. The Virginia flag is at half-mast as the Virginia Tech Rescue Squad leads the wreath-carrying group to honor the victims of the 2007 attack.
It's important to take that time and to stop and to reflect on those 32 people that we lost 11 years ago.
A small crowd of family, friends, and other members of the Virginia Tech family gathered around the memorial in silence for the presentation.
Students today, even though they may have been in elementary or middle school at that time, it's a part of this community.
Among the visitors is Pete Macedo, who barely moved from this kneeling position in front of one of the memorials. A former Virginia Tech employee and Blacksburg resident, he was friends with 3 of the victims, but can only bring himself to visit campus on this day every year.
I knew a lot of people that knew them. And they can't all be here today. And they aren't around here. So if I can be here sort of representing them, that's what I want to do.
While he knelt or sat in silence, he was joined in support by President Sands and his wife and the Hokie Bird, who stayed with Macedo nearly the whole time he was here.
To have people that don't know me support me, I think was representative of what happened as a result of what happened here.
Now still left for today is a display of artifacts like letters and cards the university received after the tragedy. Those will be on display in the library for the next few days. Also, Sarah, that candle you just saw in the video and over my left shoulder will be extinguished tonight at 11:59 and carried back into Burris Hall.
All right, thank you so much for wrapping up that. Thanks, Eamon.
On the stock market today, the Dow climbed 213 points in a broad rally. Here's a look at the numbers. We're bringing you continuing coverage at 6 tonight of the storm damage in our region. Stick with WDBJ7 on air, on our website, and on our Facebook page. And while you're at it, grab a coat for tomorrow.
Yeah, wind chills will be a huge factor for tomorrow morning. Make sure you layer up before you head out the door.
Even warm.
We'll be back at 6. See you then.